In the future, talk radio will actually educate, inspire, and make you think. The future is now. Topics and music that affect your life from Universal Broadcasting Network. Tune in at ubnradio.com.
Oh, you didn't do the music.
Oh.
No Bruno Mars. So I didn't realize I'd be on so fast. Hi.
You're on.
Hi, everyone. I'm so excited to be here. Welcome to Distill It, 360-degree view of life in sports. My name is Wendy Rosenthal. I am here with my amazing, wonderful, fantastic, tall, and very thin, wearing a green hat co-host, Eira Schwitzer.
Hi.
Hi.
Welcome back. We missed you.
Thank you. I missed you too. Not really. I was having fun in Monday.
I know you were. I really thought about you.
Yeah, I was on scouting trips out in London to find more guests for our show.
I like that.
But I'm happy to be back, and we're very happy to be with you as we always are every other week here at the UBN Radio Network in beautiful downtown Hollywood. And we are very excited today, as we always are, to have an amazing guest who I'm going to introduce in just a moment. But before I do, I want to say that, why are we here every couple of weeks talking about sports?
Because we want to be, we choose to be, we have a lot to say.
We have a lot to say, but we are also
sports fans,
avid sports fans, and the owners of a company called the Distillery Inc., which works with athletes to help them repurpose, refine, and use their natural athletic intelligence to have a life beyond a sports career. And that's what gives us, our gravitas to come here and talk to you.
And we believe that sports is a metaphor for life, and so there's always something tangentially related to sports that we think we want to discuss here.
Exactly. And I love it when my phone rings by somebody who should know that I'm busy
on
the middle of a show right now. It's okay. I'll give it to him on the head later. Anyway. So that's why we were here every couple of weeks, and we really appreciate everybody who joins us. As you know, we are live on our Facebook page as well as the UBN Radio Network, and we would love to hear from you because we have lots to talk about today, and I am sure this topic is going to generate a lot of interest. So if you have any comments or questions, please feel free on our Facebook page to comment, because I do take a look every now and then, but also you can call in and talk to us here at the radio station at 323-284-7826 or by Skype on UBN Radio One Guest. Before we jump in and welcome our guests, we always do a couple of things. And the first thing that we're going to talk about is what's been going on in sports the last couple of weeks since we've been off the air.
Well, you got to see lots of excitement.
I did.
Off in London.
I did. I came in today and said to Eira, I would like to talk about this. I was in London for the London Marathon. I wasn't there for it, but I was there and it was happening.
Yeah.
And it just kind of blew me away. It's not like I haven't seen marathons before. We just had one in LA. It was fantastic. But I had a friend who ran in the London Marathon.
Yeah.
And she was very excited that she finished, first of all, which is amazing. And I give her a lot of credit for finishing. She finished in 6 hours and 21 minutes, which I view it as any amount of time that it takes you to actually finish the London Marathon.
If it takes you 18 hours,
good for you.
Amazing. You did it.
I was really impressed. But what kind of was staggering to me when I researched it a little bit, and I'm not sure that LA, maybe New York and Boston are similar, but that the statistics for the marathon are pretty amazing. 386,000 people applied to run in the London Marathon this year.
Right.
That's staggering.
And how many are allowed to actually
just over 40,000.
Right.
I mean, they narrow it down quite a bit.
Sure.
And it's done by lottery. Just there's charities that get certain number of runners and things like that.
Yeah.
But think about that there are that many people, certainly maybe a few are traveling out from other places in the world, but in the UK, 386,000 people want to undertake the massive job of running a marathon. Look, I'm a runner, and I haven't even gotten to a point where I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a marathon.
Right.
It's big.
Well, there's some serious runners, and there are people who travel around the world just to do this.
Yeah.
And those with the focus of, running a marathon or the marathon distance on every continent, which happens.
Yeah, but that's not 300. That might be 385,000 people, not 386,000 people.
Yeah.
So I was just blown away by the number of people that want to get up and move. And that's part of the topic of our conversation today. And I just really was flabbergasted by that.
Right.
And that last year, 39,487 actually finished,
Right.
which is a large portion. You would think that a lot more would drop off.
Yeah.
So that was also very interesting to me, and that
Sure.
they will make over 40,000 finishers medals
Yeah.
to give to people who finish. And they raise, I didn't see the amount of money that they raised this year through the marathon for a variety of charities,
Right.
but I mean, it's in the millions of pounds.
So has this
Tons of
piqued a new
millions.
interest in you, and you might be gearing up for...
I have a really good friend of
The
mine who
LA Marathon next year?
says to me, do you want to train with me to run an ultra? And I'm like,
An ultra?
ultra? I'm like, what the hell is that? And she's like, well, it's either 36 or 50 miles. I'm like, are you kidding me? I'm like, I get excited if I run 6 miles.
Maybe you could do a 10K. Start with
a
a 10K. Work your way
exactly.
up to a half marathon, and maybe...
I said, I'll train with you. I might not run it, but I'll train with you. I
Right.
don't mind.
I love it.
So no, I don't actually, I don't feel like I have a big interest in running a marathon.
Right.
Maybe I might someday. I just, it feels big to me.
It's a lot of time and energy.
A lot of, but look, I could do it in 6 hours because I can walk pretty fast. So even if I'm not running the whole way, I could probably do it in that time. So I was inspired by my friend.
Right.
She and I are the same age, and so
That's a
it's
good
great.
thing. It's nice to be inspired.
It is.
What else is going on you want to share with us?
I just wanted to share with you, as always, I'm wearing a different hat each and every show, and this one was a stretch for me. I was like, I woke up this morning and knowing who was coming on, I was going, I just don't know what to do. And then, I'll say her name now. Oh, I should have asked you, Bevin. Your last name is not easy. Branlandingham?
It's Branlandingham. So it's like a
Branlandingham.
bran muffin landing on a ham.
Oh my God, I love that. I'll never forget it now.
Yeah, bran
Bran-
muffin
Bran
landing on a
Landingham.
ham. I like that. That's awesome.
Bevin Branlandingham, which I will now never forget, is joining us today. And we're going to give Bevin a few minutes to talk about herself. But one of the things that I loved when I was watching many of your videos all over Facebook, and I was struck by the idea that you celebrate and cheer on awkward. And I love that. And I was like, because I feel awkward all the time. So I thought this is going to be my thing. But I went in my closet and I'm like, what hat makes me feel slightly awkward so that we can celebrate the awkwardness of my hat?
And
I mean this sincerely. So I picked this hat for many reasons. First of which is Eira hates this hat. So,
and yet I'm still sitting here next to you.
I didn't think you'd bail on the show.
No, I
I
wouldn't.
just
I
figured you'd
wouldn't.
give me a hard time. But she doesn't like the hat because she calls it my condom.
I call her condom head when she's
Condom
wearing
head
this.
when I
It
wear
drives
this
me up
hat.
the wall watching her wear this.
So I figured it would be awkward to kind
But
of wear
she's
it
happy,
on.
and that's really all that matters.
Exactly. And I'm over 50-year-old woman wearing a hat with, as Bevin pointed out, lots of Mickey Mouses on it. So,
Many.
Many.
Not just one.
No. There's
Not
not
a
just
statement
one.
Mickey.
No,
all the
multiple
Mickeys.
Mickeys.
And I want you to know
Yeah.
I am proud of my love of childhood things, and Mickey Mouse
Right.
is definitely one of them. So I figured, well, that's kind of awkward. And then I'm wearing it on the show in front of lots of people watching. So again, I figured that would be slightly awkward. And
You are relishing in your awkwardness today.
I was
And
inspired.
We affirm you. We support you.
That's the
We
hat.
stand behind you.
Is it a big enough stretch?
Oh, it's stretched all right.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, thank you, Bevin, for making it fun for me.
I think if anybody out there is supporting you in the Mickey house, they need to just comment and just say, yes,
Yes.
Mickey.
Go, Mickey.
Can you
oh,
cheer
Mickey,
on?
you're so fine.
Yay, Mickey.
Right? There's so much you can do with this.
So many places you could go.
Oh,
And keep it going throughout the show. I want to
Yeah,
hear
right?
them. I would really like that. So it's so funny. Anyway, so now that I've slightly embarrassed, we didn't get to cheer for my awkwardness. Can you please play
yeah.
There we go. Yay, awkwardness.
Yeah.
All right, without further ado, I want to welcome Bevin Branlandingham.
Nailed it.
I like it.
Thank you. I'm getting really good. I'm really great. Bevin is, and I love how she said, a born liberation activist, a body image advocate, and an amazing aerobics instructor, a body movement instructor, a really strong voice for loving yourself and self-acceptance and loving your body. And we wanted Bevin to come on the show today because, you know, part of sports at all is really taking care of your body, and actually really understanding who you are and being able to express that on the playing field or as a home athlete or in an aerobics class. And so we are very, very happy to welcome you into the studio today. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you. I also think part of sports is like being resilient to change, because that's the only constant we can count on from our bodies is change. And I mean, I think you nailed it with your business, is that part of being in sports is about, okay, so this thing is over for me now. What am I doing next?
Exactly.
Right.
Well, and recognizing, and I think this is true for everything that you're doing, recognizing the amazingness of what it takes to be any kind of elite athlete or anybody who moves, right? And you have these attributes that can be repurposed to use in other places, and we don't give ourselves enough of that chance in many ways. It's very apparent in sports, but for sure it's, again, we talk about the sports as a metaphor for life. So it doesn't matter whether you're an athlete or not. That's something that is clearly a challenge for everybody. So will you give us maybe a minute or two on who you are and where you come from and all the things that you're doing, which is amazing.
Oh, well, let's put me in a nutshell. Okay, so I am 39 years old. I identify as a late in life jock. So like, I'm not yet fully a jock, but I am a group exercise instructor. So that's something. I went to my first yoga class when I was like 30, and I just tried it. I was like, okay, let me try this thing that I always felt afraid to try. And having the right instructor who was really open and allowed me to kind of walk in the door and teach me how to modify it for my body's or needs really helped me feel more confident using my body. And so then I got a gym membership, which was a new threshold to try. And I was like, okay, what do I do at the gym? And then I started playing tennis at a certain point, which was also fun and new for me. And then I moved to LA a couple years ago, and I was so part of my self-care is very important to me. I think it's one of the most important things you can do to truly love yourself is just to take excellent care of yourself.
Right.
And so part of that is recognizing when I was changing my life from living in Brooklyn to living in LA, I knew I would need some emotional and mental support, which I find a lot from movement. And so I was going to these dance aerobics classes that were labeled for all bodies and all levels, and that was false because we'd get to the end of the warm-up and I'm huffing and puffing.
Sure.
And I'll tell you this, if you're doing a thing and the warm-up makes you huff and puff, that wasn't a warm-up for you. Warm-ups are not one size fits all. And so it's just about like opening up to movement, right? And so I realized if I'm not finding this to be all levels, who else is left behind? And so from that motivation, that's where I came up with the idea to start my own dance aerobics class. And so I started Fat Kid Dance Party to kind of center the experience of the people who aren't usually centered in movement and the experience of people who are new or who feel awkward dancing or who kind of need extra motivation and permission giving to get out on the dance floor and to try something new.
I think that's amazing because I did see in some of your videos, just because you call it Fat Kid Dance Party doesn't mean that everybody in there is overweight or, and I want to say this up front. I have to say I've stressed a little bit about this. Like I don't want to be rude to anybody. So if I say something that's really obnoxious, but I gathered from everything that I've seen of you, you're really open, and
you've taken back the word fat. So can you tell us why that was important?
Oh,
sure. Work that you do.
So I started my work in body liberation activism, which is to me just means the idea that all bodies are worthy exactly as they are. So you don't have to meet any kind of criteria for your body to be awesome. You're awesome. You have a body. Great. And so I find fat a neutral description of my body, just like tall or short or, all the different ways we can have bodies. Like I think fat is just a way you can have a body. Fat simply refers to adipose tissue. I don't like the term overweight specifically because over what weight?
Right.
And
what is the weight to
what
be
is
over?
the weight? Exactly.
Right.
I mean, there's all this research that talks about how BMI is a BS measuring index because it doesn't actually measure anything
Right.
that has to do with your health, and that being fat can be the result of a lot of different things. We tend to, as a culture, pin it on lifestyle because it basically makes people money to make you hate your body at whatever weight it is. But your body can be fat because of genetics. It can be fat because of the side effect of medicine that you're taking. You can be fat because of hormonal changes. You can be fat because of lifestyle. You can be fat because of injury. You can, I mean, there's so many ways that like weight kind of lands in us, and it doesn't have to be bad. It can just be. And the more you can just be neutral about your body, the easier it is to move, and the easier it is to just like show up for what you need in your body. And so if lifestyle will help you feel better, and it doesn't have to be about losing weight, it can just be about how it makes you feel.
Right.
Then those are shifts you can make in your lifestyle. But if you're in a shame cycle,
Right.
shame actually makes you gain weight.
Yeah.
It doesn't actually help you lose weight. So it's one of those things where we live. Like the diet industry is a $60 billion industry that has a 95% failure rate.
Yeah.
And like
Which keeps the industry going, by the way.
Absolutely.
It's like a
it's like a
exactly
Ponzi
what they
scheme.
want. It
yeah.
is.
And so
It
it's
is.
like, who are you getting rich by letting yourself stay small? And what are you sacrificing to spend so much of your brain's bandwidth focused on how much you hate your butt? Like,
Well, I wanted to say that it's great to see in some of the videos that the people who are in your class aren't always fat.
Yes.
You know, you do have people who feel awkward, and I love that you are trying to open up what you're doing to people who are maybe have barriers to movement. And you had a whole series about, what are the barriers to movement and why. What's the most common thing that you have found? It's not just necessarily being a certain body size. It's bigger than that.
yeah, there are so many ways people kind of just have barriers to self-care and movement. And I think the most common one I've heard is time, because people, I mean, I love the Joe Biden quote where he says, show me your budget and I'll show you your priorities. Like, it's the same with time. So it's really about getting clear about what your values are and slotting what you need in higher up than letting everything else dictate your priorities for you. But I think like time is definitely the biggest barrier. But I think also valuing yourself, and I think that also comes down to priorities. It's we're taught, especially when we're socialized female or queer or people of color, we're taught that we're not allowed to value ourselves or take up space. And it's a radical act to take that back and to be like, no, I want to. Self-care is resilience. Self-care is resistance. And we can't affect social change if we're not taking great care of ourselves.
And we talk so much about self-care. I think at the same time, one of the things that I loved in a few of the videos that I was watching of yours is this notion of how self-care can also lead us down a very dangerous path, because there is an extreme, right?
Yes.
We can go overboard with this idea of self-care. I mean, I know certainly for so many of us, and I have lots of dear friends who, under the guise of self-care, might not eat as well as they should, or take, sort of get very focused with the obsession around exercise and diet, and it pushes us to a different extreme. So how do you help? Because my sense is when you have your clients come and taking your classes, it's not really about dropping weight or getting to a certain size. There's so much fun imbued in what it is that you do. So how do you help people find that balance? What is self-care really about? What does it look like?
I mean, what I think is great in what you point out is basically like, as humans, I think we're kind of prone to excess, especially because I think there's this idea that more is more. And I think we see that with orthorexia, which is like compulsive exercise.
Sure.
We see that with workaholism, which is compulsive work. And we see that, with like, there's like so many ways you can be addicted to things, right? Like shopping addictions. And that's just like, you have to shop to live, right? We're in a capitalist society. We don't grow our own food. So, and you have to work, and exercising is great, but there's always an extreme. And so it's about like finding balance and like getting to know yourself and being present with yourself so that you aren't compelled to do things in this way where the compulsion becomes the problem. So it's about like kind of bringing yourself into balance. And I think one way I really address that is in class, we work on being really present. And so it's not about, being present for exercise is not about weight loss, because if you're going to lose weight, that's a time lapse. That's not today.
Right.
So what I encourage people to do is to just meet their bodies where they're at today, not 10 years ago and not where they wish they were, but where they are today. And so we just kind of, I work really hard, and I don't know that everybody hears this, but I think like my only goal for everyone is to leave feeling more joyful.
Sure.
And I feel like I hit that 100% of the time. Like I see the big smiles on the faces and like how much joy people are radiating.
Yeah.
And that's really my measure of success. I think a lot of people get really caught up in movement is only successful if it results in weight loss or if it results in whatever.
I totally agree with you. And I think that goes back to the idea that sometimes not wanting to work out or not wanting to move is because of the idea that if I don't do it enough, or if I'm not losing the weight, then I'm not succeeding. And I'm now beating myself up because I haven't done what I set out to do, which is so tied to weight. And I want to say, I was talking to Eira early about this. You know, I struggle even with body image, you know, and I'm not what somebody would walk out and say, you're fat, right? Mm-hmm. And I know I get up every morning and I'm worried about that. And so I think it's a common human experience no matter what. And I'm curious, why do you think we're so concerned with our bodies and how they look? From the time we're kids, and it spans generations. This isn't something that just happened in 2017.
Right. Yeah.
This is something, that happened from time in memoriam.
Well, there's so much great history about how we actually became a fat-phobic society. So basically, we live in a society that privileges thin bodies, and that's just part of our makeup right now is in our culture. My friend Jess Baker wrote an amazing book called Things No One Will Tell Fat Girls, and that'll give you the history of like when this started. But this has been going on for generations, certainly dating back at least to my grandmother's generation. You start realizing that your body is non-normative, which just means like how your body isn't okay, and your body needs to be a certain way in order to be okay, in order to be worthy. And I think that one of the biggest secrets is that everybody wins if we abolish fat phobia, because everybody is affected by it. Because thin people are literally only temporarily thin, because you could get fat at any moment. And so there's this like deep-seated fear. And of course, like, you don't experience oppression in the same way as a fat person does, but you do certainly feel it in your head and also we're literally all aging too. So our bodies are just built to change. And we live in an ageist society where the older you get, the less you're valued. And the more you can sort of disinvest from that idea, and that is a choice that every single person can make. So and it's not overnight. You didn't learn to hate your body overnight. You're not going to learn to love it overnight. But if you turn self-love into a practice, you can spend 0% of your brain space worried about like how people are perceiving your body, and free it up to experience more joy and follow your purpose.
So I just wanted you to know that you've had some friends giving you a high five for self-care. That comes from Leah Smith. And I know Dara, who's your partner, I think, is on watching, as well as Lynn from South Australia in Adelaide.
Hey, what's up, Aussie?
We have some friends also from the UK that are watching us. So thank you for joining us from all over the world. I think that it's what you're saying about disassociating yourself from that idea or fat phobia or ageism is amazing. How do you practically, though, say I'm going to do that? In your experience or in your travels, is there any practical way of going, okay, I'm going to get up and I'm going to be okay?
There are so many tools available to you. So first and foremost, you have to just make a decision. Like for me, I made a decision long before I had a game plan. I just decided I was tired of hating myself, and I'd read a book called She's Come Undone by Wally Lamb, and there's the protagonist is a fat woman, and he describes her in this way where the weight that he gives her, the number is totally off from how he describes her experience of life. But I realized that she was super miserable, and I recognized myself in that so uncomfortably that I was like, I got to change something.
Right.
And so that decision that I made when I was 19 years old, after being very chronically depressed for a long time, to just try to love myself. And it took so long. I mean, this is not I'm 20 years in now, and my self-love is still a practice. So I go live on Facebook every day to talk about what's my next struggle with self-love, where's my edge. And because the things I deal with day to day are the things that someone who's brand new to the journey is also dealing with. And it's just about, one of the things you can do is just scan your thoughts and see, is this a self-loving thought? How am I talking to myself? And just realizing, because a lot of us have these internal dialogues we don't realize are super mean. Like, can you imagine talking to a child that you love in the same way you talk to yourself? And if you can't do that, that's a warning sign and a wake-up call.
Well, and so oftentimes we are talking that way, even out loud, and we aren't even mindful of how we're affecting not just the adults around us, but the kids.
Yes.
And that's what keeps this, generational, self-loathing going, right? It's we're teaching all the little ones how to see and think about themselves differently.
Yeah, absolutely.
In a way that isn't positive. It isn't healthy.
Yeah.
It isn't about loving themselves.
Absolutely.
Now, you've talked about the fact that you were bullied as a kid, that you've been fat since you were a child.
Fat-born fat is what I like to say.
Fat-born fat?
Fat-born fat. Instead of latent life fat. Or like just fat-born fat. Started out fat, still fat.
I'm going to send you lots of things, and I want you to come back with like the little like short taglines. I love your little short taglines. They're great. So you could start a business doing that, honestly. And you talk about the fact that when you are bullied as a kid for those reasons, that you end up being the worst bully to yourself. Like
Absolutely.
You're worse than anybody else.
Absolutely.
So, if we're talking about how to have self-care and self-love from an early age, what's that child's experience? How do you, it's funny. I look at my son who is 5 and he's tiny, and but I even worry about, oh my gosh, he's eating too much sugar. Is it going to affect him? How is he going to handle this? How is he going to make sure he's taking care of himself in a context that is not healthy? I'm looking at it from I don't want him to be overweight. I want him to constantly be moving. How do you, as a child, help, or how do you as a parent help kids recognize that it's not about being fat or thin or whatever?
So there's a lot you can do to be a mindful parent of badass children. This is how I like to say it. Like, if you want your kids to be awesome and strong and resilient and self-loving, the thing they learn most is actually how you model how to be a resilient, self-loving, self-caring person. So you doing your self-care, you saying, I need to take some time because, mommy needs to feel better and happier, and I feel better and happier when I'm moving, just like you do when you run around and play. So modeling taking time for yourself and taking that self-care. Also, I would say the less you can be externally worried about how a kid eats, the less issues with food they're going to end up.
Right.
We live in a sugar-obsessed society. Yeah. It is so hard to not eat sugar unless you have time to literally homestead. And so homesteading is like going out and buying a farm, right, and, having a blog and some goats. So, you don't have to have a blog. That part's optional. But I love homestead blogs. But I would say the thing that I found the most damaging to me as a kid, other than bullying from my peers, which was really horrible, was actually my mom, who loved the shit out of me. Like, my mom loved me like no other. She made a lot of choices to help me be the independent and amazing woman that I am today. But she also was really concerned about how I would experience the world if I was fat, and I was already fat.
Yeah.
And also, I think fat phobia lands on parents differently than you expect, because you have critical relatives who are like, what are you letting
Absolutely.
her eat? And
right,
all of that stuff, people just judge the parents as though it's their fault that their kid is fat, when it's literally benign human diversity combined with the American lifestyle,
right,
which is, not a lot of kids actually have access to go outside and run around, and we have all these screens now, and that's how we're occupying our kids instead of not that running around on train tracks is the safest thing, but isn't that what kids used to do? And
yeah,
now kids don't do that. So it's just this idea of modeling a lifestyle that has the goals and values that you want to instill in your kid, and then also helping them have access to nutrition that makes them feel good. And so I don't know that you're going to avoid sugar entirely, but I think people can like make choices about what's in the house. And like, you know, that's kind of how I manage my sugar intake, is like making choices about what is available to me in my home is a radical lifestyle change. So, and like teaching your kids how to have intuitive eating habits. And there's a lot of great resources out there about health at every size and intuitive eating. Be Nourished is a great nutrition sort of zeitgeist based in Portland, and they do a lot of stuff around just like body positive eating that helps you just like get your mind around what works for my body, because we're fed all this diet culture stuff where like
Absolutely.
it's like remember when it used to be like low fat, high carb, and then now it's like no carb and meat and like.
Well, that's just it. We don't even have a real sense of what we like or what is good for us or what our bodies can or cannot tolerate, because we're so saturated with the information that comes from everyone else. You know, gluten free and sugar free and non-GMO, and you get lost in trying to figure out what it is that's going to do you good.
Yeah.
Right? So we start to even lose faith in ourselves and sort of following our own gut about, this feels like I eat this and enjoy it and still be healthy and happy. And, we're so saturated with the information that comes from everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so much. I worked with a health coach, and I still work with her, but we really like sort of drilled down on like what was going on in my body. And we did a whole foods cleanse, which I don't like cleanses. I feel like often they're very like food restrictive or diets masked in something else. But this one was just simply like eat as much as you need. And actually I was more full than usual because I was being so like intentional about what I was eating.
Sure.
But I was eliminating the 7 most inflammatory foods. And that really helped me reintroduce things to my body and teach me how I was reacting to stuff. And that really, like doing that whole reset with a health coach, I don't think people doing it on your own is different. I think having someone to call from the grocery store and be like, I don't know what to do is helpful. So I did that, and it really helped me learn why it is that sugar affects me so much and how I get affected by GMO stuff, because like you just feel it in your body more, because when your inflammation just kind of like makes you almost numb to it, it's like a constant state of fighting in your body. And so like just doing a reset, like just taking a pause and figuring out how your body reacts to stuff helps you be in alignment with your body.
So how come in the Fat Kids Dance Party you come to the things like high five for self-care and cheer for awkward and celebrate being out of your comfort zone? Where did that come from? And why do you feel like it's an important part of the workout class experience?
So high five for self-care simply came from being in aerobics classes, not knowing anyone, and like being like, there's got to be some way to interact with people. And like also self-care is something that is totally worthy of a high five, and drinking water is important. So I was like, let's high five for self-care. I just wanted people to interact more and not feel like, I want someone to be able to come into my class alone and leave feeling connected to the group.
Sure.
And so high fives are a great way to do that. I also learned from somebody who is super OCD that like they don't like to touch people. So I like to say jazz hands are the no touch high five.
I love it.
And then with the awkward thing,
I'm giving you one right now.
Yeah. With the awkward thing, I just feel like everything good is just outside your comfort zone. And if I can help people be on a dance floor feeling awkward and holler it out, it gets them used to doing that, because sometimes if the more comfortable we can get with discomfort, like think about that.
We are like huge proponents. That's part of our program as well.
It's like one of the best things you can do for yourself. And I mean, it's something I struggle with. And so it's like we teach what we most need to learn. So I'm making it part of our culture that we cheer for awkward. And, hopefully I can really the more people adopt we cheer for awkward in all walks of life, the better off we will be, because people will just keep growing and getting to be better versions of themselves.
Well, you know what really struck me about the cheer for awkward is one of the things I think is a barrier for working out, and or maybe it's just a barrier for me and I'm the only one, but that feeling when you walk into any kind of training class, any type of group,
right?
I know I feel super uncomfortable because I have an expectation of myself, how I'm going to look, am I doing it right? I remember, the first time I ever went to a yoga class, I was like, oh my God, I'm totally doing this wrong. And because I'm looking around at other people, and it definitely stops me from participating,
Right.
which is probably why I'm a runner. I like to go out by myself and not have to worry about how I look and all of that. So I feel like the cheering for awkward it's also recognizing that there is, while you may have a desire to move, there's a certain stigma or perception of yourself that comes around doing it that stops us from doing it. So I feel like you've given people a really safe place in order to come in and say, okay, it doesn't matter. If you look bad, you look good.
Yeah, there's a
you're
place
doing
for
it
you
right.
there. Yeah. Where can people find more information about your class?
fatkiddanceparty.com.
Yeah.
That's just one kid, Fat Kid Dance Party. And so I'm on tour, so I'm going lots of places with the class. And I'm also filming my first workout video
On Thursday.
Love it.
I saw all of that. I was like, oh, we got to ask you. I'm very excited to hear about that. But
And where can people get that?
Oh, so
And how long will it be before that's out?
So great question. fatkiddanceparty.com has a link to buy it, and you can still get it at the pre-sale price.
Okay.
And then it's going to launch. I know it will be less than 2 months after we film it. So
amazing.
That's what my director editor has promised.
Yeah.
And so
How exciting.
I'm really excited. I'm terrified also because I'm doing a new thing. So I'm
Sure.
like out of my comfort zone and like actively just talking through that so that I can just be present for it. I also have a VHS copy of Sweat into the Oldies that I put on my desk to remind me that Richard Simmons did his first workout video once too. And so, and probably wasn't self-produced. So like he had a different threshold for awkward, but still like, you know, just reminding myself, you got to start somewhere and, you know, it's okay. It's going to be great.
Where's your tour taking you? And tell us a bit about the people you're meeting and the impact you're seeing.
It is
on
amazing.
Their lives already.
So it's so fun to be teaching regularly in LA because I have my regulars and I see them a lot and I see people like moving forward in their lives and seeing the impact of like showing up, even just like, you know, regularly how that impacts people's lives. But even just the one time when I see people on tour and how they get lit up and how they feel so validated. And I just get a lot of feedback from people about how validated and joyful they feel in my class. And that is so nice. And I've been mostly, it's funny because like I'm on tour, but like really it's like I'm going places where like I have friends and I can stay places.
Sure.
So I was in Austin, Minneapolis, Portland, Seattle. I just went to San Jose last weekend and I'm going to DC in June. Going to Knoxville, Tennessee next month. So we're just like kind of going all over, but mostly like creating pods of people because the best thing you can do, I learned, you know, business-wise for like building up a fitness empire is to create raving fans. And so wherever I can go, like to help people see what this is about and introduce them to it will help like create the
builds the community. And do you connect people? Because also I think I find that when I can have a shared experience in whatever I'm doing, but particularly when it comes to working out and taking care of my body, that having that community to talk to. And I struggle a little bit, honestly, with the idea that this is so focused on a fat population, because I think it is for all of us. Really, it doesn't matter where you're at. So do you connect your communities as you go along? Is there a way for, you know, who the heck is calling me? It's hysterical.
Everyone knows that you were on the
air.
show.
Sorry to be distracted.
That's all right. Well, I'll tell you this. To answer the first part of your question, my class literally is for all sizes. So there's a subtitle that says for all sizes to heal from body oppression.
Yes.
So that's important to me that people understand it is for all sizes who want to heal from body oppression. I have a good friend who's an Ironman who comes to my class. So I have like people of all who still says it's quite a workout. Yeah. And it's truly like I provide variations for all levels. Last night, somebody was just like really like running like crazy during one of my dance breaks, and I was like, get it, like, and then also, I mean, it's just like it's truly to meet people where they're at, but it's just centering fat people, which most things don't center fat people. Yeah. And the community, I'm really excited about the possibilities of connecting communities. So people meet in my classes. I'm realizing now as I schedule out the tour stops, I'm starting to schedule a little extra buffer time afterwards to do kind of a Q&A mingle. And that's been really valuable to kind of help people connect with people in their own home communities. But also my goal is, as this continues to develop, that people see somebody in a Fat Kid Dance Party t-shirt, or like I'm starting to do these like vest things. So if people see somebody out there with their Fat Kid Dance Party swag, to like high five for self-care. So like to create a connection with people anywhere based on the shared experience. So even if you took it in Austin and that person took it in Portland, they can connect over having had that experience or being part of the community. So I'm excited to like create a thing that's like bigger than me, like that's like its own sort of connection around people who are just like, let's have joy and movement and do self-care together.
Which is not easy to do.
No.
I mean, we think about how much time we spend exercising, and, you know, a lot of the time we're just not having fun. It doesn't feel good because we're working. We think that we have to push and be in pain and beat ourselves up and, you know, really to make ourselves look and feel a certain way.
Yeah.
And that whole notion of having fun while you're doing it isn't always at the forefront. And it needs to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the lens I put through everything. Anything I do for Fat Kid Dance Party goes through that, is this fun lens. Even what I write about Fat Kid Dance Party and everything is just like, I want it to be fun, because I think it's this capitalist notion that things have to be pain or things have to be a punishment, or you have to work really hard in order to have worthiness or value. And I think that's not true. I think when you find joy in things, it doesn't make it feel like work.
Yeah.
And so,
Well, I think when you're able to find joy in things, that's where you're most worthy, because then you're spreading
and you
joy.
Want to put in the work.
And you want to put in the work. Then the work is, you know, it's a package that starts with joy, instead of starting from pain and having to, you know, overcome beating yourself up and all of that. You know, you've said this a couple of times, and it was funny. It was on the top of my list, and I didn't ask it. And you know, you use the term body oppression. Can you explain that a little bit more? I know we've been talking about it. I'm sure we've been talking around it, but it's a strong word. It's a really strong, statement.
It's true. I mean, we live in a society that oppresses bodies, and it's body oppression affects us in so many ways. It's not just about size. It's also about race, and it's about class, and it's about gender, and it's about gender conformity, and it's about your sexuality. And there's all these different ways that different bodies experience oppression in our society, and the way that lands in us too, I think, is also important. I'm a healer first and foremost, so I'm a Reiki master healer. That's kind of like a little subtle thread that kind of rolls through Fat Kid Dance Party. But I really believe that our bodies store trauma, and even after we've done work to like clear our head of things, our bodies, like the way you respond to triggers, when you go into fight or flight, when social anxiety comes up for you, that is all stuff that's just stored in our bodies, and there are ways you can use your body to heal from that. And so I believe the experience of oppression, so if you're a person who is in a body that, you know, is fat or gender nonconforming or a person of color, you experience oppression in the world, and that just lands in you, and it makes you feel small. And your body's just like not used to being able to take up space. Like if you see cisgender men on the subway, they're spreading their legs wide because they've been taught they're allowed to take up space.
Right.
And you see women on the subway, and they're like holding themselves close and trying to make themselves small. And part of what I teach in class is how to open your body up, because there's all these confidence building things you can do with your body that helps your body unlearn the experience of oppression.
You know, when we talked a few weeks ago, when we first talked to you, we talked about that idea that sometimes change happens to your body that creates a fat scenario for you. I was mentioning when, you know, I had my son when I was in my 40s, and it took me a long time to recover, and I can't remember the term you used, but it really struck me that a lot of people don't think about a body change like that in the same way. You know, again, it struck me that I had been one way my whole life, and I wouldn't, you know, not have my son for anything in the world, but I carried that change into a place that wasn't healthy.
Right.
Because I was like, I was never like this. I could eat whatever I wanted. I never had a problem losing weight. It was a whole thing for me.
Because in some ways it feels like it kind of happened to you. You know, like you knew you were getting pregnant.
Right.
You knew you were going to have a child, but then you don't really know what you don't know until it happens to you. And you realize
Exactly.
this kind of came out of I mean, I love the result. I love the reason for this, but wow, my body went through a huge transformation.
Or with
You
some
know?
kind of illness where you have to take medicine and maybe the medicine is healing
Sure.
you, but it's causing challenges in your body that you're not
Yeah.
used to. So in your experience and in your travels, can you share with us how that impacts people who aren't, say, born fat? Born fat.
Fat born fat. Not what I like to call that is non-consensual change. So if you're feeling like if your body just changes, like aging is non-consensual change, right? We're all only.
I'm actually I'm consenting to aging because
great.
I would like to be
Embrace
around for a
it.
while. Yeah.
Yeah, fair enough. Me too. I'm working really hard to I think some of the ways in which we age actually is truly caused by the stress of aging.
Yeah.
So it's ironic, right? Like the
Right.
more you stress out about it, the more it shows.
The more you
So,
age, yeah.
but postpartum body change is real. Like it's really hard for people, especially if you're used to your body being one way and then suddenly it's not. Because not only when you bear a child, your physical body changes to accommodate a growing being inside
Sure.
you. What a miracle. But also your hormones change. And so that changes like how you interact with the food you eat and how movement lands in your body. And I think the more neutral you can be about change. So this includes when you are losing weight or if you
interesting.
experience weight loss. I experienced weight loss when I was addressing chronic inflammation, which like really helped me and I felt so much better. But I didn't feel better because I lost weight. I lost weight because I was working really hard to be in alignment with my body
Sure.
and to get to know my body more intimately. Yeah. And I really found it a non-pliment when people would tell me, oh, you look so good when you lost weight.
Non-pliment.
Like, it's a total
Honestly, I'm
non-pliment.
just going to send you stuff.
Thank you.
I love this. I have like a glossary over here. I've been keeping like amazing non-pliment.
Yeah, but it's true. Like people really love to congratulate you, and like lots of people lose weight for lots of reasons that they don't want to talk about. Like cancer is
Yeah.
a great way to lose weight. Not that I'm telling
forbid,
you,
right.
like God forbid the cancer diet, but like
Yeah.
that's something that happens. And there's one time I lost some weight because I went through a bad breakup, and I was just really honest with people when they said, "Oh, you look so good," and I was like, "Thanks, I had a really terrible breakup, and I
Right.
can't eat." So, which makes them feel uncomfortable. But I sometimes think.
Embrace the awkwardness.
Embrace the awkwardness. I
high
think
five.
sometimes people need to feel uncomfortable to understand what they're doing is just perpetuating body oppression.
Sure.
And the more you can get neutral about your change in your body and the changes in other people's bodies, it's a feedback loop because judgment is like a two-way street because
Sure.
I find really judgmental people who are externally judgmental. The Real Housewives will really show you about this. Like the more you judge others, the more truly you're judging yourself.
Oh, for
and
sure.
like this insecurity judgment loop. Like that you can just make that really small because every time you feel yourself judging someone else's body, if you interrupt yourself with a mantra, like all bodies are good bodies. It's an easy mantra. You just land that in there when you find yourself judging or appraising someone else's body. And you just remind yourself all bodies are good bodies. It starts to let you off the hook when you start getting concerned about, oh, how are people seeing me?
Sure.
And then you can say all bodies are good bodies. And it's just like an easy way to kind of train your brain out of that. And so when you have non-consensual change in your life, which is like, oh, my body is different now, but here I have this child, it's like, what a new era you get to be in.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, it's a new way to interact with your body, but also a new lifestyle because being a mom is no joke.
Right.
No, it isn't.
Yeah.
Listen, I can't believe we've gotten to the end of this show.
Already?
Can you believe it? But I love
so
the
wild.
fact that we're going to end on all bodies are good bodies.
Yeah.
And I can't thank you enough for coming here and sharing this 50 minutes with us. You are a bright, shiny, wonderful person who has really, I love how you're expressing your own challenges. And by doing so, you're really helping others. And to that end, I want to let everybody know, and I've had a couple of comments about your Facebook Live every day and how much people love it. And we've been watching, and they're fantastic. You also got a comment about when can you come to Denver, Colorado. I want to give a shout out to.
want Denver.
I want to give a quick shout out to a friend that we said that we would. Hi, Miriam. We know you're there. And I just want to say thank you again. We will be back in 2 weeks' time, and that will be on May 8th. And we are very happy to welcome Allison Wagner. She's a former U.S. women's Olympic swimmer. She won a silver medal, and she also is an advocate of anti-doping, and we're going to be speaking with her about her experience, which was very challenging, and all the things that she's been doing to help shift consciousness about doping in sports. You can find us at www.thedistilleryinc.com, on our Facebook page. We're on Spotify, iTunes, Castbox, Stitcher. We blog, and
We're all over the place.
We are all over the place, and we are always appreciating. And a light just went out. Wow, we're always appreciating when you join us, and we will see you in the next couple of weeks. And until then, please love your bodies, love yourself, and we'll see you soon.